Welcome to this edition of Bury Your Bookie. I'm Jeff DeForrest. Tuesday edition always features my man Mike Jones over here. And Mike Jones, it was Bee Gees time for Mike Jones last night. Da 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 da. Staying alive, staying alive, stayed alive, and didn't have to sweat it too much in the second half anyway of what was a very pedestrian ball game early on. Conditions in Pittsburgh not exactly ideal for playing great outdoor sports, but we've seen football in worse conditions as well, and executed with great efficiency. What wasn't always the case last night, but Houston and Pittsburgh do battle. We all know it's now infamous. Mike Jones has parlayed the Houston Texans with the Minnesota Wild to win the Stanley Cup to the tune of about 23,000 for like $5. Kind of bet that you could never have made in the past when we all got started in this thing. And a fairly convincing victory. Great defense by Houston all throughout. 30-6 could have been the final game for Aaron Rodgers. Offensively, Houston made more than their share of mistakes, but they get 14 points from the defense, including, and how weird would this be, 30 years from now, it'll be the answer to a trivia question if it happens this way. If Rodgers doesn't return to the National Football League, which you would say is what? Maybe sub 50-50, but not. I wouldn't rule it out as being ridiculous to consider it. His last pass as a Hall of Fame quarterback, surefire, the first ballot Hall of Famer, would be a pick six. A very excruciating grammatical point to put at the end as a stamp on the end of your career. How are you, Michael?
Good. A little better after last night. You know, you sit there and you give out those the Houston Texans, which I thought would be the best bet of the weekend. You always get worried to pull it down 3.5 to 3. And then really the blew me away was the second half line. You're watching that game. Think about it. Stroud turns it over 3 times. They allow 6 points, 3 first downs in the first half. Looks pretty rough in the first series of the game when they're going down the field and they end up, coming out and getting the first score. But what did you see that would make that line not go to 2.5, or go over that 3 number in the first half, knowing you figure Stroud is not going to play as bad? But more importantly, do you see Pittsburgh's success offensively in that spot? So my thought was, I got scared off the game because I couldn't believe the line was only 1.5 second half, making it a 2.5 point spread. Now, that could be that the house needed Houston. People were betting Pittsburgh, so they could have kept it, shaded it under. But I thought very rarely you see a halftime line to me that looked weird, but that one did. Case in point, let's go to Saturday halftime line. You got the Rams and the Panthers. You have the half right before the half. The Rams can go up 13. Panthers get all that momentum, make it a 17-14 game. You'd think it's 4.5. They make the line 6.5, and I see 7s out there to put it right back to the line of the game. Thought that was extreme. Kind of fooled me into thinking that maybe they're onto something that the Rams would go there. Never got to the point.
Could it be, though? I mean, we've been gambling all of our lives here, and I always hear about the sharp money. You reference it a lot, the smart money, this money, and that money. Could it be that there's just a lot of stupid money coming in?
Yeah. Yeah, it's changing.
Period. I mean, not that there ever was smart money. Maybe that's a bit of a myth. I mean, you're always thinking, oh, yeah, well, Tony, he told me that this can't lose. And those are the sharps. But are there really sharps anymore at this point?
Yeah, there are.
So diluted by the number of people that are betting, that are throwing $5 at something just because they're on their third beer and they're thinking, hey, I got a phone in my hand, I can make a bet.
Well, here's the influence that I think is happening in the industry. You have 72% of all the American action now is provided by a basic fantasy company, DraftKings and FanDuel, who do tremendous marketing, real business, and they take it out there. And I also know that guys who I know that were registered sharps in Vegas go other places in the country to play, and you have to use these, operators. They don't get the ability to put out the bets they are because they get blackballed immediately and they're taken off. Which the state of Massachusetts, ironically, is making it's going to the regulators that they can't do that. In other words, the state-operated FanDuel DraftKings are trying to make sure that they can control who bets with them. Massachusetts is fighting to give everybody the equal opportunity. You can limit them, but you can't cut them off. So if you're a sharp and you continue to win, they're saying that it's illegal, the state of Massachusetts, that you can't win too much. You should be able to win that much.
You should be able to do whatever.
Right. So that's where it gets interesting. But to me, What I think is happening over the course of time is these bookmakers in Vegas and all over the world move off guys that are successful bettors. They figure it out. They do their research. They know who's coming in. They analyze the accounts. They have other people talk. And
It's
people talk.
hey, listen, Mo, lose my number.
Yeah,
But well, I mean, the absurdity of that when you really think about it, that this is look, the bookie or whatever. In this case, now you have all these legal bookmaking outlets. They're entitled to do whatever they want in terms of their business. But how could you do business with them when you realize that the only way that you're involved with them is if you continue to lose?
right.
Start winning. I mean, I know guys, and I'm sure you do also, that have been cut off by certain
Yep.
entities, even on something as was the case with the
Yeah.
professor on Australian rules football. They wouldn't let this guy bet it anymore because he was kicking ass,
Right.
consistently. And all of a sudden, guess what? Big red flag, you're a schmuck, and thank you very much for your business, but you'll have to take it somewhere else.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, it's insane that is something that can be embraced by people because
Yeah.
it essentially means that unless you're losing, that they don't want you around.
Well, I mean, look at you see some of these, like for instance, the line in Carolina Rams were 10.5, drops to 10 at game time. All the tickets are on the Rams and the money's on the Rams. They still move the line down to 10.5. Why do they do it? The odds makers say it should go to 11, not 10. They do it because somebody they respect comes in and takes the odds of underdogs at home in the playoffs plus 7 or more or 5-0 against the number. And they win the games usually. So the point is, that's what this is about. This is about somebody who understands the numbers, who they respect, comes out there and takes that bet. I mean, it's, I know people have moved lines and I have no respect for their gambling, but I know they move lines. So, like I heard just the other day, so handicapping 101 by a two-time champion of the West Superbook contest, handicapping contest, said if you're analyzing a game now, you should write down the lines on Tuesday. You should write down the lines on Thursday and Sunday. And then when you see the movement of the line, bet against it. In other words, who is moving the line, what they're doing. If you have -4 on Wednesday, on Tuesday, and you get +6.5 on Sunday, that's the play. And if it's -2.5, you lay 2.5. You take the line where it is and go off the movement and say that the price maker knows what they're doing. Now, I know this for a fact. 2014, 15, 17, the algorithms were coming in, these handicappers using these computer systems, and they were beating the house. The house figured out a way to use that system to make the correct line. Hence, the money came back. There was not that distinct advantage to the computer player. So these are the things that the houses do to keep up with the handicappers and what they're doing. But once Westgate announced that they felt comfortable privately to say, we got the right numbers now and we put them in there, we don't have to see a lot of variation. It's it. But when I watch ESPN Bottom Line on DraftKings, you could watch one circle of those lines come up on an NBA night or a college basketball night and see a point and a half move on a total in just one commercial.
Yeah.
And that's the thing where I feel like DraftKings and FanDuel, the bigger operators, you might have a chance to go beat them, but then will they let you beat them? The point is, you can see the action. That's if you're a line
You're
changer.
cut off.
Yeah,
These are words I have never heard. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Mr. Forrest, but we have to cut you off. I guess there would be a great gambling distinction to that. All of a sudden, you're up there with legends of the game. All right, let's take a look at these matchups here. And there has been some line movement in favor of Indiana in the championship game. We'll get to that, college football. But we now know the matchups that are set for the next round of the postseason in the National Football League. You, of course, are going to be watching with great interest your Houston Texans against New England. Houston's defense, outstanding. I think everybody has seen that throughout the season, and it was certainly in evidence again last night as they destroyed Aaron Rodgers and the Pittsburgh Steelers, and may have sent Rodgers, if he wasn't thinking about retirement before the game, by about the middle of the second half there, he had to more than start to see his career flashing in front of his eyes. New England, underrated defensively, I believe, Mike Jones. Their defense was impressive last time out, and beating the Chargers. They beat the shit out of Justin Herbert, who took 21 hits, it turned out, in that game, including 6 sacks. I don't know, how he's in one piece. It looked like he just went 15 with Roberto Duran by the time the ball game was over. And I think offensively, the consistency is much more on the side of Drake May. He had a couple of turnovers in this last game, than it is C.J. Stroud, who early in the ball game yesterday, through the first half, he was throwing a ball like it had a gyroscope in it at times, and and that's why it was such a close nail biter into the second half when Houston finally broke it open. But I know your thoughts about Houston, but how do you see this matchup?
I see it as being on both sides of the ball. Two very good defensive coaches, guys that have matched up already in the past, who in division games when Vrabel was at Tennessee. I'm a little scared about C.J. Stroud last night. He had me worried at halftime. The fact that the game was a 7-6 game and he had turned it over 3 times told me something's got to change. And then the first drive, they kind of go with a similar route and struggle a little bit, but they got the field goal to go up 10-6, and then obviously the two defensive score, and then seemed like at 17-6, Pittsburgh kind of gave up defensively a little bit. Pittsburgh's defense is very good, and what I was impressed with, which makes me lean a little bit more on the Texans, and not because I have them, but because of my eye test. Their offensive line did very well against a good Pittsburgh front blocking for the run last night. They held up pretty good. It was C.J. Stroud an ability with 5 fumbles, two for losses, not being able to catch a center, not paying attention. And his eyes coming off the field made me look like, can he win a game? Is it going to come down to it? Will he be able to go take his team and put him on their back if they have to? So the defense is going to have to ride him. I like the under 41 in the game. I thought the total should have been in the 30s. It's 41, so I would jump on the under, thinking that New England's defense is going to be okay with some of the defensive fronts and formations that they came out with. According to what I'm hearing, the Charger players were mesmerized at the end, had no idea what they were doing. So that tells me Vrabel's got a second level now. He's got the players he wants in on his defensive front, but they don't have the pass rush. So if Houston's front offensive line can hold up and support this, and Stroud can get his head out of his rear end, I think Houston's got a chance. But I like the under. Just a quick look at 41 in that game.
All right, very good. Buffalo Bills, impressive in their comeback. A tremendous throw there at the end of the ball game. Josh Allen carrying the team on his back. A lot of people feel that they might be a 5-win team if it wasn't for Josh Allen's play this year. Denver Broncos off the bye week, which can work both ways, as we've seen. Either you come in fresh and rested or come in with the so-called ring rust and end up a little bit flat, especially early in the game. Bills, I mean, if there was ever a chance for them to finally get redemption, it's interesting to me. You thought if Buffalo lost that game, they might fire Sean McDermott. Right. And now you're looking at them and saying they probably, are favored to win this game over Denver on the road. They hadn't won a road playoff game, I believe, with Josh Allen. So they were like 0-8 or something. I don't know. Some ridiculous number. It couldn't have been that high. But they hadn't won a road playoff game in forever, so they do that. Denver's offense is so suspect to me in terms of point production that I don't know. What do you think? Buffalo, did they go in there and pull off what would a couple of weeks? I mean, you didn't know that Denver was going to end up the number 1 seed till the final week of the season, but can they do it 2 weeks in a row, the Buffalo Bills, and go in and pull off a win as a road favorite?
Buffalo opened up a 1.5 favorite. Is now down to a pick'em. The key component to this game is Buffalo struggles in run defense, but you have Sean Payton. Will he be patient enough to stick with the run? In my opinion, I think he will. And I think if they have success in a running game, which keeps Josh Allen off the field, that's the pathway to success for, I think, Denver in this spot. Problem you got here is I go back 2 years ago when Pat Mahomes had not done anything on the road in the playoffs, and he ended up making the road Warriors and ended up getting the Super Bowl, beating the Ravens and beating the Bills in Buffalo on his first road appearances. Well, what did Josh Allen accomplish Sunday? His first road victory in the playoffs. I kind of think, I'm going to watch the line move. I think if I can get Buffalo as a small underdog, maybe by the end of the week, thinking that the bye week and the number 1 seed might carry it on. A lot of people I talked to couldn't believe that Buffalo was favored in this game. I think it's a very tough spot. I'm not sure what my selection is yet, but I like that line move away from Buffalo. So it kind of makes me lean Buffalo to pick them. Josh Allen, according to people, best player in the game. Can he carry him on the back inside a very, very tough environment? But it all comes down to this. Does Buffalo get a little more stout on the run, and will Sean Payton stay with the running attack to keep Josh Allen off the field? Will Bo Nix be patient? Will he be making the right decisions? You got a veteran guy who's been there before against a guy playing in his second playoff game. That's kind of the way I see it. I look at it like, this is a game that Josh Allen's probably the side at this point. I'll watch and see if I can get points with him.
Big edge at quarterback in terms of what they're capable of generating and infusing into the offense. All right, yeah, that's a tough call because of the Denver defense also, and the rarefied air there. Buffalo being challenged to go on the road 2 weeks in a row. Possibly could do it. It's been done before, but it's a rarity where a team wins a Super Bowl as a road wild card team. LA Rams and Chicago, Chicago Cardiac Kids. We talked about that a little bit yesterday. Just amazing how they've been responding in situations that mathematically seem impenetrable. That there's no way that they can come up on the right side of things with the time left and all the numbers you crunch into that equation, and yet they managed to do it. And they did it again in this last ball game against the Green Bay Packers, who have been prone to collapse. Rams, many people thought that they would go on and be the NFC representative. Did they go into Chicago, roll in there, and continue to produce offensively? Took a miracle for them to get out of Carolina. So, what chance do you give the Chicago Bears, who in this ball game are 3.5-point dogs at home?
Well, first of all, I think it's a shootout. I think the over 51 is a side in this game, depending upon weather. But, I tell you, I kind of like Chicago. I never thought I'd say this. I've never been a Caleb Williams fan. He proved me a little bit in these comeback wins. But, hey, you're getting 3.5, and if you're down 15 in the fourth quarter, you're probably right where you want to be. So I look at it like it's kind of like, let me take the points in the spot, and here's why. The Rams' defensive struggle, giving over 37 to 34 points to offenses that might be in question. They gave up a big comeback in Seattle. Yeah, they had Arizona in the final week. Maybe they're just not getting the pass rush. It seemed like they weren't getting the pass rush they're getting. I love Chicago's ability to block their front line. Their offensive line is probably one of the most improved units in the league. I'm that guy that wants Joe Tooney to be the MVP because look at what happened to Kansas City the minute he leaves. They're out of the playoffs, and here he's got Chicago making an epic run now, but further on in the playoffs in over a decade. So my thought is this. I'm going to grab 3.5 in this spot just because you got back-to-back travel weeks. You have weather, playing in a cold, windy day. I know Matthew Stafford was in Detroit, but he also played indoors. I think the conditions might not lean toward maybe a big passing game. I like Chicago's run attack a little bit better. I'm a little suspect of the Rams' defense. I'm going to take a shot here and say that this is a high-scoring game, maybe 30-27 Rams, or maybe the vice versa. Anybody wins the game. But I think it'll be close. I like 3.5, and I think I like the over.
All right, last one on the slate here from a preliminary standpoint as we take an early look at these games. San Francisco and Seattle. Seattle on a bye week. Sam Darnold, a remarkable season. He had a remarkable season up until the last couple of games last year with Minnesota, and then he started going euchre with his throws. That's a little high and outside, as he really was off from the guy that he was in the previous 15 or whatever games. That hasn't happened. I mean, he finishes the regular season on a very solid note, puts together a lot of solid performances, or even beyond that. I mean, very good performances. San Francisco been remarkable this year too, for the most part. One of the teams that's upside against the spread. Not a lot of expectation early on because of the injuries that afflicted them, but they seem to have everything pretty much on track in this last ball game. They look great. Can they pull off the upset in the first round? San Francisco, fairly heavy underdog here, 7 points.
Yeah, I'm very intrigued with this game. I think losing George Kittle might be a little bit of an after effect. I think it might have been an adrenaline bump in the Philly game. I am so disappointed in the Eagles. They were one of my teams this week. I just thought they would rise up in the playoffs, and they looked good for a half. And it just seemed like you could sense that midway through the third quarter that this was going to go south. That analyzing, a friend of mine analyzes the all 22 tape, and he basically put out, on X that he thought that Hurts had plenty of time. He was running out of the pocket when he had time to sit there and throw. Can he see is Jalen Hurts' time now in the league? If he's taken away to run, his run option that no longer exists there, he's more of a pocket passer. He runs only on broken plays occasionally. I think they had one design run
when he gets outside.
Yeah. The problem is these guys aren't accurate. So I kind of think they caught a bad Philly team. Here's what I think with Seattle. I think they're really good defensively, offensively. I think you need all horses. The key component to this is the Trent Williams factor. I always believe certain great offensive linemen, and Trent is a Hall of Famer, getting him at left tackle solidifies the emotion, the base of the San Francisco team. I think Sam Darnold's going to get tested again, another playoff spot for him. Pressure's going to be a mount. Does he take internally? For some reason, I like 7 here, but I might be surprised if the 49ers win the game.
All right. No money line play on the 49ers, but taking the 7 points there and taking it to the bank. All right, a couple of quick things. And, of course, Mike coming up with the usual epitaph for the New York Giants, although they did have a dinner meeting with one John Harbaugh last night. And you would imagine that lends well to the idea. He's supposedly going to schedule some kind of interview soon, and that would solve a lot of your problems, I think. At least most people are of the same opinion. But you're going to have the Big Gunner podcast coming up in just a few minutes. I did want to touch on a little line movement there. Indiana was 7 and a hook, I believe, and now 8 and a hook against the University of Miami. I have a couple of friends, very interesting situations too. Guy I know from the radio business here in South Florida is still on the air, and he has been talking all season about how he put 100 on the Canes to win the championship at 50-1 before the season started.
Wow.
And so he's, or it might have been 1,000 at 50-1. Yeah, I think it's a dime at 50-1. So he's got 50,000 coming if the Hurricanes win this. So naturally, the question is: early buyout was proposed at 12,000. They'll give it to him today if he turns the ticket in and doesn't take a chance, because on the money line, Indiana is over 3-1.
No, that's the number, right? If you get 320, if you're trying to win 12,000, it's an even money bet. They're just trying to get off it, which tells you what it is.
Oh, they don't want to take the chance on having to give the guy the 50. What would you do in that situation? Because it's prohibitive to hedge off to try and.
Yeah, I'd take 3,000. I would take a $2,000 win and say I'll take 2 for 40. That would be my play. I'd put 3,000 on Indiana money line, lay 10 grand in that, and so I know I either get 2,000 or I get 40 if Miami wins. So you're taking what would be a 50-1 shot, making it a 20-1 shot, and saying, okay, here's what I got, and I get a free roll of 20-1. That's what I would do if I'm there. Just and again, you want to watch the game, maybe a live bet in the middle. Here's my thought about this Indiana team. Hearing these unbelievable stats with them. How about one fumble lost the whole season? It was in the first game. It was in the first game of the year in the first quarter. How about only 10 defensive penalties all year? 10 defensive penalties. So now you're not going to get that gift from Indiana defensively to get that free first down on an offside or pass interference and all that. That shouldn't come out. So you're taking away possibly extending drives to a defensive fault. The line going 8.5. I think that line is way too high. But it tells you that they're betting it, that people are coming in. And look, if you told me at the start of this playoff, you have Miami, Oregon, and Alabama, you're going to try to figure out which 1, 2, and 3. And I bet you some people might think Miami would be the 3 team. So now you have 2 teams that they've beaten by over 30 points. My thought is this. They're going to be they're thin in the secondary. I think the 3-headed monster that no one's given a lot of look at is their wide receiver core. Big, strong, fast, get open, run good routes. You have a guy who could spin it. If Miami does not put the major pressure on Mendoza and get him to think that the heat's coming, and I might think if you trust your corners to play man, you might have to come with a 5th guy or 6th guy to get Mendoza off his get him off his comfort. You're going to have to come up with things. The problem I see in this game, Jeff, I said this yesterday. I walked to a football coach this morning at breakfast and said something to him. I think this is the greatest coaching job in the history of sports in 2 years, what Kurt Cignetti's done. He's not going to get out-coached. And now we bring in the crystal ball factor that we all talk about. And I think that's where the 8.5 goes. And I do not trust this play calling of Miami. Do they have to run a gadget? Do they get impatient if the run's not there and have to do something silly that they rubble reverse fumble? Beck gives up a turnover. Even though Beck is 16-3 against ranked opponents, an unbelievable, unprecedented record, can he carry the team if need be in a situation where they stop the run? Because if I was them, if I felt comfortable in the corner position and felt like we could control Tony a little bit, if I'm Indiana, I'm putting 8 in the box and saying let Beck beat me. And that's what I think it might come down to. So there's a lot of things, but do I want to see 10 in Grand Miami? Yeah. But get me up to 10 and I'll take Miami and take my chances. But I don't know how he can lay it. And I've been saying this
you sound like Leonard Toews, man, when he was on 60 Minutes, the former owner of the Eagles. And I believe it was like Morley Safer was doing an interview, and he said after he busted out completely, living in some efficiency in Atlantic City off the boardwalk there, which is not the most favorable of neighborhoods. And Safer or whoever was doing the thing asked him, if I gave you $1 million right now, would you do it all again? And maybe the greatest line ever spoken when it came to gambling was, "Can you make it two?"
Yeah, yeah, that's
That's
right.
you. Give me 10 points. Yeah, and I'll go
Right.
ahead. All right. So you're saying the points might be suspect there. You're surprised to see him climbing, and
Yeah,
Indiana
it's just a different way of handicapping. It's
still
you're
probably
looking at numbers. You're a numbers man. Look at it. The eye test tells me what I just said. They won 2 games by 30 against teams that you would thought would be better than Miami going into this playoff. Miami's playing great. There's no doubt. Mississippi did what they want against them. This is some team, I think. And again, like I said earlier on in these previous times, I want to see it to believe it. I took Alabama in game one, got destroyed. Then I said I should take Indiana here because you're kind of looking at it like the line keeps coming down, right? 4.5 to 3. It goes off of 4 to 3. Wow, who's betting Oregon? And I sit there and go, my eye test is let me see it happen. I'm watching the game, and it's like, where's Indiana's mistakes? Where are their faults? And then you hear they only have 10 defensive penalties and only turned it to one fumble, haven't fumbled it in 14 weeks.
a crazy winning stat. No doubt about it. All right. Final thing. I know you got to get going here, Mike Jones, but
Yep.
you will have the Big Gunner podcast that gets underway 10 o'clock right here on nofilter.net and many other platforms around the globe. NHL slate tonight looks pretty robust.
Yeah.
Opportunities. I don't know. I mean, I would be throwing darts at all of this, but you have been zeroed in on the National Hockey League. So, you have anything you're playing tonight?
Yeah, last night was a very interesting night because we liked the Rangers, but I didn't pull the trigger because I don't like the Rangers as a favorite at home. And what happens? The Kraken go in there down 2-0 and come back and win the game 4-2. Rangers is a complete struggle. Thought they got smashed 10-3 in Boston on a national TV early game Saturday. No one watched, but I was paying attention to it, and I said this, and Boston comes back and wins. So I'm going to do this tonight. I think Toronto Maple Leafs got a huge win. They've got Nylander back. They got a huge win last night in Colorado, and now they head up to Utah. You never like on hockey because it's just such a physical game and takes a physical toll on you to go back-to-back. I'm going to take the Maple Leafs as a dog, playing all that momentum if the overtime win against Colorado, breaking their 17-game home winning streak. So I'm going to look for a dog and go say, let's take the Toronto Maple Leafs. Also, one little stat, if you like to bet the board and have some fun and not think, underdogs 5-4 last night throughout the NHL. It's one of these things I've said. The league is getting closer and closer. These games are getting tougher. Maybe run a little bit of $20 bet and run all the underdogs and take a look at the scoreboard watch and hope that the pluses take it. But 5-4 last night for all the underdogs. Other game I will look at is Edmonton's playing a little better hockey now. Got some goaltending last night. First under in like 6 games. Last night they win 4-1 on the road. Back-to-back going to Nashville. Again, another situation where you're not sure about betting back-to-back teams on the road. Might take a shot with the Edmonton Oilers, only laying 120.
Wow, brilliant logic and taking some chances here. Back-to-back teams on the road to be successful. That's Mike Jones, who may as well be Don Cherry here on the program, the way he's been calling his hockey so far this year. All right, Mike, you have a good one. We'll check you out on the Big Gunner podcast that's coming up. If you're involved at all with the New York Giants, you want to listen to Mike and his various positions on what they need to do. And I also had some inside information that you may have picked up the tab for Mara and Harbaugh last night at Rayo's, which was a pretty fat number, but that's how involved you are in trying to get.
We got to get some W's here. And we need leadership. That's what I think this team is way. We just need a little bit more of a coach that can get in these guys' heads and know to lay it out in the field. Because let me tell you something. The Giants have always been a defensive organization. Going through the 70s when we were really bad, we always had defensive players that play. We seem like we have those kind of players that are really good on defense. Just doesn't seem like watching the old Giant tapes that these guys really are all in, bought in, and that's what I think we need. We need a guy who can get to them mentally and say, this is what we can do if we all lay it on the line. We could be the Houston Texans. Because what I saw last night was a team that kept coming and coming and coming and showed physicality. 2 great ends like we got in Will Anderson and Donnell Hunter. And you got to be careful there. So that's the test for this week for the New England Patriots. Can they keep those edge rushers as good as they are off Drake May?
All right, very good. All right, that's coming up 10 o'clock. Mike Jones, thanks as always. We'll see you again on Thursday. People, will see you tomorrow, and thanks for tuning in. We'll catch you on the next edition of Bury Your Bookie.